During the Pennsylvania election hearing, a witness claimed that voting machines used in the U.S. were built for manipulating elections, and alleged that according to his team's research, up to 1.2 million votes could have been altered in Pennsylvania.
So all of these election systems.
Phil Waldron, a cybersecurity expert dealing with intelligence and information warfare for some 30 years, was a witness at the hearing. Waldron said that he and his team have been researching voting system manipulation issues since August. He told the committee that the voting systems in Pennsylvania and elsewhere in the U.S. were built to be manipulated.
And just so you know, I know there have been statements to the contrary, but I personally debriefed the son of a Cuban intelligence officer who had firsthand knowledge of Hugo Chavez's family members who told him not to worry about the populist threat against Maduro's election in Venezuela, quote unquote, that it was guaranteed. Their father invested the money to build the SGO voting machine system.
He said the man who told him this has written a sworn affidavit. Waldron said U.S. voting systems like Dominion have similar code and similar function, and have a common DNA to holding company SGO's Venezuelan-linked Smartmatic.
So these systems, in a nutshell, allow authorized and unauthorized users to cancel votes, shift votes, preload votes, vote blank ballots, all in real time and in large numbers.
He also alleged the machines are connected to the internet and have servers outside the U.S.
Our experts and other academics believe that up to 1.2 million Pennsylvania votes could have been altered or fraudulent. This is what we discovered in the last 22 days.
But he said that only a detailed forensic analysis would show how many Pennsylvanian votes had been manipulated. After the allegations were made, Dominion released a statement late on November 25th, saying that Dominion has no ties to Smartmatic or Venezuela. Attorney Sidney Powell's Georgia lawsuit includes a sworn affidavit from an alleged Venezuelan whistleblower who claims to have been present when Smartmatic was created to rig elections for Hugo Chavez. He also alleges Dominion shares Smartmatic software. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
And a data analyst has reviewed voting data in several swing states. He says his findings are enough to overturn the results in at least 3 of them. His evidence appears to suggest the election results could be turned to favor President Trump. NTD's Kevin Hogan has more.
A data analyst performed 35 experiments in 5 states regarding voter data in the presidential election. According to his findings, in at least 3 of the states, the number of questionable or potentially fraudulent ballots exceeds the vote margin between Trump and Biden. The leader of the Voter Integrity Project, Matt Brainerd, explained his findings in an interview with Crossroads host Joshua Phillip. Brainerd said he found over 1,000 voters in Georgia who listed themselves at addresses that are post offices or other facilities the Postal Service leases or owns, like FedEx or UPS stores. They also disguised their P.O. boxes as apartments.
So rather than saying P.O. Box 123, the address is listed as apartment 123. And that's a major red flag. And what's also remarkable about these individuals is that almost all of them voted early absentee. Very few voted in person. So that really raises a red flag because they're illegally registered, and not just incidentally, but intentionally meant to deceive by listing, suite number or unit number rather than technically what it is, which is a box number.
For example, a voter listed his or her address as 724 Charlie Smith Senior Highway, St. Mary's, Georgia, apartment 5402. But that address is not an apartment building, it's a post office. According to the Federal Voting Assistance Program, when requesting an absentee ballot, a P.O. box cannot be used as a mailing address. Now on to Pennsylvania. Brainerd had teams call people the state marked as having received a ballot request, but from whom the state never got the actual ballot. In other words, people who supposedly requested a ballot, but it never arrived to be counted in their name.
The first question we asked is, did you actually request that ballot? And in many cases they said no, which is a big red flag because somebody had to request that ballot, and by law it had to be them or somebody that they designated legally to do so.
Here is an example of a call his team made to a Pennsylvania resident.
We show that in the state of Pennsylvania is marked as having received an absentee ballot request from you but did not receive your absentee ballot. Did you request an absentee ballot?
No.
The second question they asked was if the voter returned the ballot. Many said yes, which Brainerd says is a red flag because the state did not receive it and their vote was not counted.
We're hoping that by making this data discovery, that it will lead to judicial remedies that could bring greater scrutiny to the election, such as signature evaluation or manual recounts, as well as law enforcement to look into exactly who requested those ballots, and then if the people did mail them back in, why they didn't get counted and why they didn't make it to the clerk's office.
Brainerd says his analysis should have been done before the election by cleaning up voter rolls to remove ineligible voters, and during the election by objecting to ballots that should not be counted. He says once the ballots are taken out of the absentee envelopes, it's hard to remedy the problem, short of a judge ordering a complete do-over of the election. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
A lengthy lawsuit released this week in Georgia. The state is in the middle of another recount. An election integrity advocate tells NTD that the first audit didn't reveal what it should have. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the details.
The recount Georgia's doing now is simply a rescanning of the ballots. So that means that if there are any illegal ballots in the count or anything wrong with the Dominion voting system, it won't be detected. Any problems with the machines should have been detected during the state's first by-hand audit. However, the directions given to election boards made it impossible to detect any potential irregularities.
That was another problem, that not only did the Secretary of State collect the numbers, he then ordered the counties to certify their existing electronic totals if their hand count was within 0.5%.
Since many counties were still submitting their results from the Dominion voting machines, he said the first by-hand audit didn't uncover the problems that it was meant to find.
There's 159 counties in the state of Georgia, so if you have, I think the margin now is 10,000, it would be less than 100 votes per county that would change the outcome of the election, maybe 70, 80 votes.
The 100-page Georgia lawsuit released this week alleges that the start of massive fraud begins with the election software and hardware from Dominion Voting Systems Corporation. Favorito says he warned state officials of the problems with Dominion long ago, only to be ignored.
So we argued for 2 years with the legislature, the Secretary of State's office, and the Voting System Commission with hundreds of people explaining that no, this is not the kind of system that Georgia needs, and they bought it anyway.
So since the first by-hand count didn't serve its purpose of exposing problems with the machines, and the second recount is simply scanning ballots using the machines, what's the purpose of the Trump campaign requesting this second recount?
And in asking for the recount, it opens up the door for him to challenge individual ballots. And that's where, and individual voters for that matter.
He expects the Trump legal team will be looking to challenge individual ballots, such as those that look like manufactured ballots, as well as potential missing ballots, and ballots turned in with invalid addresses. Any ballots like these can all be challenged directly once the recount numbers come in next week. Reporting by Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.